Hello, welcome to the At Odds Pod. And look, first and foremost, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see this by now. There's only two of us. It is myself, it is Jake. Boz is yet again, this is the second time within a month now, missing in action. So, Boz, we hope you're doing well, mate. We'll have you back on very soon. But look, we'll get stuck into this. Really interesting sort of weekend of football and sport ahead. But let's start with the Premier League. Let's start on Saturday and let's start at the late kickoff, 5:30 p.m. Chelsea versus Man United. Two teams that I think seem like they're on an upward curve. Two sort of young managers who actually I don't think Ten Hag's actually that young, but two managers who are new in the job, both kind of on their way up, you'd say. So, Jake, what do you think about this game, and maybe what do you think about Man United after the Spurs game this week just gone?
It absolutely pains me to say, Farley, but Man United are actually looking really good. Like that Spurs game midweek, if there was any result for me to pick in that game, I probably would have gone for Spurs. And they just completely shut out any sort of Spurs attack. Um, they had shot after shot against that Spurs defence. I think Lloris was arguably the best player on the pitch, to be honest. He made save after save. And yeah, they just impressed me. They seem to be going from strength to strength. I mean, there's always going to be a performance in them like that one against City, like the one against Brentford, where they can crumble. But in a game like this against Chelsea, away at the Bridge, it's going to be a good game. I think it's got tight game written all over it, to be honest, hasn't it? I think Ten Hag and Potter, the way that they've both gone about the business so far is try and shut up shop in these bigger games and not try and concede a lot of goals. I know it obviously was hard at the Etihad for United, but a lot of teams going to struggle like that against City this season. But can they get a result away to Chelsea? What do you reckon, Farley?
So yeah, I'm hugely impressed by them. Really been quite impressed by not City, Chelsea since Potter took over as well. I think they look really sound. I think Potter's shown he's kind of got big balls. Obviously taking out Mendy, putting Kepa in net. I think everyone else probably would have thought he was absolutely mad, but Kepa's probably been their best player since Potter came in. He's been absolutely superb. I do just think that's a really good team. I think we saw during his Brighton days, I think they were really sort of they weren't defensive. That's not remotely fair to say, but I'd say defensive strength and keeping the opposition out was a key part of what they did. Um, and they kind of built plays from the back, got forward. And I think it's going to be a really close game. And I've actually written a preview of it for covers. Go check that out on my Twitter profile. But in that, I've gone for a draw, and I think a draw is the kind of the result that makes sense here. Four of the last four times they've met, it's been a draw. These teams, a draw kind of suits both of them as well, and they've also been really good defensively, both teams of late too. So for me, yeah, it does make sense. I think this could be a draw, but like to be honest with you, it's one of them that if this went either way, you're not going to be shocked, are you? So yeah, I'd go for the draw. How about you? The draw, by the way, is 8-3. Ridiculous odds, 8-3. I actually wish these bookies now stop doing this. Like, give us traditional odds.
Yeah.
Don't give us your 8-3s. You're like 69-12s. All this sort of absolute rubbish. Let's just have the proper odds. I'd rather take a bit less and not have to, deal with that. So 8-3 is the best on the market right now for the draw. And you got a nice little bet I can see.
Yeah, so my pick for this one, I've gone for Mason Mount to score at 3-1 now. His brace against Villa last weekend were his first two Premier League goals of the season, but this bet's more down to the famous eye test that we usually talk about, where it's not all about stats and facts, but looking at how the player's actually performing on the pitch. That midweek game against Brentford, there were so many opportunities for him to be slipped in by Brozier and other players, and it just never materialised. And Mount is always one of those players who will be in and around the area. As we saw in that Villa game, he's on set pieces. He's going to be on free kicks, and especially after scoring that free kick last weekend, he's going to be shooting from anywhere outside the area. But 3-1 again's a big price. I think same with you, Farley. I can see it being a draw, but I don't really want to pick an outcome either way, to be honest, because it's just one of them games that can be a bit stinky. I know before we started recording this episode, we briefly discussed like booking markets for the game. Casemiro 5 to 6 to get booked is just it's crazy. I know at the end of the day he's likely to get a booking, but I can't have a player odds on to get carded in a game, which especially in this Premier League season where you're not sure what ref's going to give out how many cards and so on and so on. So it's going to be one of them games that's got bet builder written all over it, let's be honest, if there is any sort of bet that we'd have on it. But yeah, Mount to score 3-1 draw for you. Again, it's one of them games where anything can happen. It's going to be tight, I think. So yeah, it's going to be a cracker.
I think card-wise, like you mentioned Casemiro, I think by far the most likely. But those odds, you just can't really get involved. I'd say you've probably got more chance at a better price, or less chance, but a far better price with someone like Diogo Dalot. I think he's always kind of a bit rash. Is Malacia around? Is he fit or is he out?
I'm not sure if he's going to be fit for it.
Yeah, so I don't know about him. I think he's always kind of ripe for a card when he's about. But I think it is a tough one, isn't it? And like you mentioned Mounty. I think he's looked really good recently, and I think he's. I mean, I'm gonna have to be careful how I word this. I think he's one of the most underappreciated players in the Premier League, and I think at the same time, I think a lot of people think he's absolutely mint, but there's a lot of people who don't think he's that good. A lot of people who questioning whether he should be in the England squad. Like that isn't a question for me. Whether he starts is the question. I think he's just a tremendous player. But there's one guy I actually do like to score a goal in this game.
Yeah.
But it's one of them. He's not going to start. But if Chelsea are dominating play, if this sort of game script or whatever suits the possibility of a Chelsea goal, Christian Pulisic, when he comes on, the LeBron James of soccer himself, he looked pretty good last time he played against what's it? Who was it they played? Brentford, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's a good player, I've got to say, I do think he's a good player. I think he can really add something to that attack. And yeah, if that's going to be one of those I look at him play. If he's kind of comes on, looks a bit lively the first couple of minutes, I'll be straight on the old app, getting my bet on for that. But let's move elsewhere on Saturday, shall we? I think the early kickoff is Forest Liverpool.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give you my tip for that. It's a simple one. Liverpool win to 0. 2 reasons, effectively. I think Liverpool, they're starting to show signs of life. I don't think they look like a total joke like they did at the start of the season. So that's the reasoning behind the Liverpool side of things. But the odds are just so small on the Liverpool win, it's not worth doing. But you're getting 11 to 10 on Liverpool win to 0. They're playing a Nottingham Forest team who've only scored 7 goals in 11 games. And defensively, Liverpool do look a bit tighter now. So I think you're getting over even money on that is a good bet. But why don't you take us away with your best bet for the Saturday slate?
Yeah, so I'll be at the Etihad for Man City against Brighton. That's a 3 o'clock kickoff on Saturday. There's also Everton against Palace, a 3 o'clock kickoff on Saturday too. So I'm sure if Boz was here, he'd be going on about how Palace will get a win away against Everton. But thankfully he's not, so I don't have to listen to him going on about that. But City Brighton, there's no point of betting on any sort of result here. City are 1-5 to win. I've gone for Alexis McAllister to be carded for Brighton, though, against City at 4-1 now. He's already been booked 4 times this season. We've said this in recent weeks. Each one of us individually have said this. Those players who have been booked and are on the brink of getting the suspension, a lot of them are massive odds in terms of getting another card. So I think at 4-1 in a game against City where there's a chance where they might not have as much of the ball as they usually have because Brighton do play good possession football. he is the type of player who will start to get angry, start to get frustrated. 4-1's a great price for him just to have a stop a counter or kick out at a player. Yeah, I think it is just a great price. I mean, again, Brighton, we did all get excited about Brighton when the new manager came in and they got a draw at Anfield, and we were like, "Wow, this is going to be crazy." But they've not won in 4 games now. Is it going to be a case of when they play against teams like Liverpool and City, and they're going to be more open games like that, where Brighton do start to come alive a bit more and they look to get results in those games? Whereas I watched them the other night and it was just absolutely stinky. I think I looked at a stat on Twitter, or saw a stat on Twitter the other day, which said Brighton haven't scored in the last 37 shots, which is crazy, absolutely crazy. And it may be more of the same again here at the Etihad. So Alexis McAllister to be carded against City is my pick for that game, 4-1. Farley, again, you've gone Liverpool win 0 in the early kickoff against Forest.
Yeah, I've got
so
to
yeah,
say,
it's
Jake,
great.
in your game, the City Brighton one,
Yeah.
obviously wasn't going to mention it, but I've tipped that up in another article. I've written links on bio, all that sort of stuff. But I've got Man City -2 there,
Okay.
which is 13-8, which I think is a pretty good price for City, really, because I mean you've scored so many goals this season. You've been, scoring an average of 3 a game, is it?
Yeah,
which is just ridiculous. And ultimately, Brighton I think they've had in 4 games with the new manager 3 blanks. So City -2.
Yeah.
Can you see Brighton scoring? Probably not. Can you see City scoring 3? Absolutely. Can you see them scoring 4? Like, to be honest, yes, I can, which would even negate like Brighton scoring. So I think, 13-8, you're getting a really nice price on that as well.
Listen, this is we're the only team who've had a week off this week too. Obviously, that Arsenal game was postponed, so
yeah,
that's massive at this point in the season where there's games every single 3 days. For a team like City who keep the ball and they run a lot too, it's massive having that week off and having just a bit of a rest. To be honest, I've seen players going back home for a couple of days at the start of the week. I saw pictures of Akanji on Instagram. Players like that just they need a rest, which is good. It's good to see. So let's move on to Sunday now, because Sunday's actually a pretty big game, pretty big day of Premier League football. We've got 5 games. I think we've had this for the last couple of weeks now, actually. But we've got Villa Brentford at 2:00, Leeds Fulham at 2:00, Wolves Leicester at 2:00, Southampton Arsenal at 2:00. That is the Sky Sports Super Sunday game. And then Spurs Newcastle at 4:30, which is the second Super Sunday game. Quickly, I'll go into my pick for this. I've gone for a little North London double. Arsenal to beat Southampton away, which should happen, really. Arsenal are absolutely flying at the minute. Spurs to beat Newcastle is the one that's a little bit of a tough one, because Newcastle have looked good so far this season, but I think that Conte is going to get into his players after that midweek performance against United, and they need to get back on track with a win here. It's 2-1 for that double. Again, little North London double, Super Sunday, so both games are on TV. If you want to stick a bit of both teams to score in there too, that might be likely. That comes back around 6-1. So, yeah, it's going to be a good day of football to watch on TV. I've seen, Farley, you've gone for one who I feel like I've got deja vu, to be honest, because I think I've seen you to have this player be carded a few times now. Famously once the other week too.
Look, we're going to talk about Fulham again. I've really enjoyed watching Fulham this year. I've been to see them live, live quite close to their ground, so I popped in, seen them live. Really, a lot of people slag off the atmosphere there. I really enjoy it. I think it's good. Bit chilled, but that there you go. Mitrovic, brilliant player, and so Fulham this weekend away at Leeds. Leeds, I don't know if you can call it a crisis yet, but I was so impressed by Jesse Marsch when he first arrived. But it's sort of going horribly wrong. But I still think I still think they're going to be fine. I've seen. Did you see Brendan Aronson's interview after the game on Thursday night?
I didn't know. What did you say?
He basically just said, like, to be honest, one of the best interviews I've seen post match from a losing player in quite a while. Actually, he just sort of fronted up, said it wasn't good enough. The fans deserve better. All those cliches, but he said ultimately the performances aren't good enough. And he didn't throw his manager under the bus either. He said, look, I know Jesse. I've worked with Jesse before. I really enjoy working with Jesse. Like he's not to blame for this. This is on us players, and kind of really took it upon himself. Said that the manager's doing all the right things. So it certainly seems to me like he hasn't lost the dressing room, and I think that's a big part of it. So I'm not going to look at the result there. I'm going to look at a specific player to get booked, and it is my man Paulinho again. I've won quite a lot of money on this guy this year. He's got a booking in every other game, effectively. So 5 yellow cards in 10 appearances for Fulham. Starts every single game. I think I've made an argument on social media as well. I actually think besides Haaland signing of the season, I think he's been absolutely top class for Fulham. I think, to be honest, he's just as important as Mitrovic's 8 goals. I think he's superb. I think it's going to be a real dogfight at Ellen Rose. There's going to be, lots of Leeds attacks. He's going to need to break them up. They might get caught on the counter as well. Again, that just leads to yellow cards. So for me, you're getting a really nice price of 11-4. So just under 3-1 for a guy that's booked every other game. The maths don't really add up there. It should be lower than that. So 11-4, I'm taking it. He's not been booked in a couple of games now either. So I feel like we're due one.
He's due.
We are due one.
It's interesting, the whole Jesse Marsh conversation, to be honest, because I have a couple of mates who are Leeds fans, and all I've seen on their social medias in the last 24 hours is all talk around wanting Jesse Marsh out. And I think it didn't help him last night when he didn't go over to the away fans after the result. He just went straight down the tunnel, and the Leeds fans did not like that at all. I saw videos of him after the game for like 15 minutes after the game, just singing, "Where the fucking hell are you, Jesse Marsh?" and stuff like that. So
yeah, that's very poor.
I know you've said that the players are still behind him. The fans not being behind him is going to be a tough one, especially for Leeds, because Leeds fans, I think, can get a bit toxic. They've started singing Bielsa's name already again. So it's a weird one. I think the other thing to mention too is, as the time of recording last night, obviously, we saw Steven Gerrard get sacked. Is that going to start a little managerial merry-go-round now? We're going to start to see clubs start to flap. Just having a look now quickly too at the next Villa manager market, and it is Sporting Lisbon's manager Ruben Amorim, who is favourite to become Villa manager now at evens.
Shame that super sporting fan Sam Boswell isn't with us today. I'm sure he'd have lots to say about that.
How dare he come into this league? Right, let's move on anyway. Let's get on to banker, bust and draw for this week. So let's do it individually again. So we'll do bankers each, then bust each, then draw. Let's mix it up a bit. So your banker, first of all, for this weekend's games, Farley.
Jake, it's not a fun one, but it's Man City at home to Brighton. Brighton in poor form, Man City in pretty good form, and just at home. Easy.
There's not a lot else you can say.
But at 2-9, I would not bet on that. But in terms of what we're doing in this, it is a banker.
Yeah, I've gone for Liverpool as my banker. You said it perfectly before, to be honest. Liverpool to win 2-0 is your pick for Saturday's games. But Liverpool are looking not anywhere near the best, but they're good again against the Forest team. They're absolutely rubbish. Bust for the weekend's games, Farley, we just spoke about Gerrard leaving. Philly you've gone for as a bust.
Yeah, so full disclosure, I actually wrote this before the game yesterday. So this was a pre-Gerrard sacking. They were basically as short as evens with some bookies at home to Brentford. But I'm going to stick with it. Thomas Frank is a guy who's actually been linked with the job. I think he's done really well for Brentford. And you still get a price of evens. And to be honest, I actually think there's a really good chance we see a bit of a bounce from them. I don't know who their caretaker is, but still, I think evens is a shocking price for a team who are playing so awfully, especially against a team like Brentford, who I think they're disrespected by the bookmakers nearly every single week. They're not going to necessarily win, but I think they could spoil the party for sure.
Yeah, I like that too. I like that too. My bust is in the Monday night game. I went for West Ham at home to Bournemouth. West Ham 8-15 against the Bournemouth side, who have looked really good under Gary O'Neill, and I just can't back West Ham these days, to be honest, because they either look amazing or absolutely rubbish, and you just never know what West Ham side you're going to get. Obviously, Skamaka could turn up, or Scamacca, whatever Boz called him last week. But yeah, I just can't be backing West Ham at 8-15. I don't think there should be that much odds on for this game. I'll go for my draw first for the weekend's football. Mine comes in Sunday's fixtures. Wolves Leicester. Again, both teams. It's got unders written all over it for a start, and I think that Wolves still not got a new manager yet. Leicester could be sacking a manager soon. Draw written all over that game. Your draw for Sunday's games, Farley?
My draw, Spurs Newcastle. I've been quite impressed by Newcastle this season, and then Spurs. I don't know what to make of Spurs. One week
Yeah.
I watch them and I think they're really effective. Strike force is deadly. The next week I watch them and I just think Conte needs to leave. So for me, this is a draw.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Again, I picked Spurs in my double for Sunday's games, but you genuinely do just not know what Spurs side will turn up to this season, and Newcastle do look class too. So yeah, draw's a good one for that. Let's move on quickly to the EFL. I know that you're our resident EFL expert. We call you, Farley, and you've
Not
gone
last week.
for yeah. Last week was a stinker for all three of us, to be honest. All three of us had tasty looking tips, and it just went to pot. Let's go for your pick first, then, Farley. So it's a League One bet for you.
League One for me. 5-6 you're getting on Sheffield Wednesday to win away at Lincoln. Wednesday, right now, a third in the division, 5 points behind the best in the West, Plymouth Argyle. But Sheffield Wednesday, best team I've seen this season, if I'm honest. I thought they were really good against us. We still won, but really good team. They will go up. I'm almost certain of that. I think they'll win the league still, if I'm honest. Lincoln, they're just under mid-table. Pretty good team, to be honest with you. But Sheffield Wednesday are good enough to go there and leave with 3 points. I think 5-6 is a pretty nice price, to be honest.
Yeah, I like that. My pick for the EFL this weekend, I've gone for Blackburn at home to beat Birmingham. And this is down to form, down to league position in two. You've got Blackburn, who are second in the championship at the minute, against the Birmingham side, who are 14th in the championship. And Blackburn, they're flying at the minute. They're at home, where they tend to do well at home. I mean, joint top of the league is somewhere that Blackburn fans will not have imagined would happen at the start of the season. But as the weeks go by, they just still tend to be in and around the top of the table, which is good for them. They've not lost to Birmingham in 4 games. They're unbeaten in 7 games at home to Birmingham too. I just don't think there should be odds against for this one. You're getting 21-20, 11-10 in most bookies. It's just a really good price against the Birmingham side, who, similar to a lot of the teams we spoke about recently, you just don't know what you're going to get with them. And I think that's going to be a regular theme this season, with the season being so weird. We've got a World Cup break in the middle of it. Just before we go ahead to the foreign football segment of the show, I'm just looking at the championship table now. It's crazy. I mean, there's 10 points between first and 20th. All I've seen in the last week is viral tweets going around of, oh, this club's first, how are they first? It's the tightest championship table I can remember. I mean, let's say the last 5 or 6 years, we always get a team running away with the league. Fulham, for example, we get teams like Leeds. That league is mad for a team where they just kick on and they just look better than everyone else. But this year, it doesn't tend to be like that. There's no team who are really pushing away with it. And
Could go
I
either
think you could
way.
argue, yeah, that is the best league in Europe at the minute for me. Massive shout.
No, I agree. For drama, unpredictability, like the football is not necessarily good. Sometimes can be a bit agricultural, but I mean, there's 6 points between top and 12th. Like that is absolutely bonkers. Like you can get a run on. I mean, realistically, looking at the table, I mean, Middlesbrough and Blackpool are 20th and 21st respectively, and they're 11 points behind top. That is easily surmountable over the course of a season. So
That's crazy,
I mean, you just can't rule anyone out. I mean, even Coventry, right? They're second from bottom, 13 points. How far are they behind? 14 points behind with 3 games in hand. They could win the league. It's mad. But I totally agree. I think it's one of those you never know what you're going to get each weekend. I try to avoid betting on the championship because I just can't do it. Well, look, Jake, it's that time. Get your passport out. Get your little suitcase. Put everything in there. Little battery pack. Change your clothes. Some sunglasses. Some Barocca. And let's get on a little sleazy jet over to. I think we'll go to Paris first.
Yes.
Okay. If you, I don't know if I'm impressed or shocked. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see what Jake's up to. If you are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and please do subscribe, Jake has out of nowhere suddenly pulled up both his passport and a pair of sunglasses that he's put on for this trip.
We're going to France. So Friday night, I've started the foreign football off early for me this week. Friday night, we've got PSG away to a JCO in League. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing the JCO right, to be honest, but PSG are. You can never really bet on a PSG result straight out. 3-10 they are to win. PSG to win and over 2.5 goals is evens. That's my bet for these games. I've had a look around different foreign football markets and there's just nothing really that stands out for me. I got a little bit of inspiration at your bet, which features unders and overs in there. But yeah, PSG to win over 2.5 goals. I don't have to go into the stats for PSG, but they're unbeaten in 29. A JTO, 1 draw, 4 losses at home so far this season. PSG have had 5 wins and a draw away from home. PSG are going to win this game easily. It's just whether or not they can get the goals to go with it, and I think they will do, to be honest. So PSG to win over 2.5 is my pick for this one at evens.
I like that. I love a bit of Friday football. So my pick, it involves Napoli versus Roma on Sunday night, 7:45. Annoyingly, when I'm probably going to be watching the NFL, because I actually think this is the most exciting game of the entire weekend across the entire planet. I think this is the game I'd want to be watching. And to be honest, I'll probably dual screen and watch it because it's going to be so good. Serie A right now, really quite tight. Napoli are at the top, Roma down in 4th, but only 4 points separate them. Really competitive league this year, with the exception of Juventus and Inter, who have absolutely fallen off. But that means, the top 6 this year, for example, Napoli, Atalanta, Milan, Roma, Lazio, and Udinese. So a couple of kind of less traditional teams in there as well, and a few that you always fancy to be there or thereabouts. So really interesting. But I've been so impressed by Roma. I think they're a really good team. I think they have actually been quite unlucky to be where they are. I think the table's telling slight lies. I think they're a bit better than 4th. But I'm backing Roma to win and under 2.5 goals, 6-1 for that, which I think is a lovely price. Roma on the road. You know how Jose Mourinho does this. He'll go there, 11 men behind the ball, set up shop, park the bus, and just nick a goal. Tammy Abraham on the counter. Lovely jubbly. I'm just really excited for this game. Really excited.
I like it. I do like it. I think you're spot on in terms of there's no other game like this weekend. I think looking at every single league around Europe, it's just a lot of stinky games going on this weekend. But Roma Napoli is going to be a cracker, definitely.
It's weird how it works like that, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Like last weekend, we had Liverpool City, we had the El Clasico, and now it's nothing, is it? It's a bit stinky this weekend.
Speaking of El Clasico, we hope you listened to our bets. All three of us pulled out winners for that, so that would have been a delightful bet builder.
Superb. And do you want to quickly touch on Real Madrid and Barcelona? Is it a case of them two sides just being still a mile apart from each other, or can Barcelona go on and win the league this year? What do you reckon? Because
I think they can. I think Real Madrid are better than Barcelona for sure. I worry about Barcelona's depth. Like if Lewandowski got injured, who's going to score goals for them? Defensively, I think their centre backs are not good. Garcia's dreadful. PK's past it. Koundé's fine. And the other guy whose name I can't pronounce, like Arujo, I should be able to pronounce that. I know it's awful. Yeah, I think he's pretty good, but like, it's not an elite defense. But realistically, I think Clásicos aren't going to decide who wins that title. It's going to be who kind of goes in these these crap games on the road at Villarreal or Cadiz, and doesn't slip up and get a draw. I think that's how you go and win it. It's consistency, and Barcelona have been quite good at that this season. So, yeah, it's a toughie.
No, it is going to be a tough one, and I think it's nice to see that every league apart from the French league this year looks fairly competitive. Even Bundesliga this year is looking more competitive than it has done in recent years. But I think that's more because Bayern have dropped off a little bit in terms of their form.
That's true. So look, Jake, we have no Boz here. He's not going to tell us about racing. But guys, if you're listening now, he will have some picks for us next week, some Cheltenham tips. I think that's why he's not here,
I know, I think so too.
He doesn't want to expose himself as a fraud. But make sure you're back next week because he will be there. I don't have anything for the NFL this week. The lines aren't out yet. And they are out, but in terms of anytime touchdown scorers, I'll put something out on Sunday on my socials for that. But Jake, you have a tip for us, and it is, as always, one of your weird little reality TV ones. So let's hear it.
Right, Farley, I am not sticking my neck out on the line too much with this tip. In all honesty, I am tipping up the favourite to win Dancing on Ice this year, right? So I know recent weeks we've spoke about TV markets in the past on this pod, and again, it's another TV market that looks good to me, but 4-1 is a great price for Ekin Su to win Dancing on Ice this year. And that is purely down to the fact that I've never seen anything really like Ekin Su in terms of Love Island and social media following and stuff like that in recent years. I mean, I don't know about you, Fally, but I've watched Love Island over the last few years, and there's always that person in there who goes in and all you do then is see her on Instagram and different social media platforms. But Ekin Su and Davide seemed just like a completely different level of fame this year. They've gone on, they've pushed on, and now Ekin Su's got over 3 million followers on Instagram. It's just an absolute madness. And looking at this show, I think that popularity will transpire over to her going on and winning. The market, it's one of them in terms of Dancing on Ice. I'm not going to turn around and say I'm a massive Dancing on Ice fan because I'm not, but it's going around a nice ice rink and skating. I mean, if she starts and pushes on and becomes a good skater, I just think 4-1 is a great price on her to win, to be honest. Just solely down to her popularity. The other person I was looking at in the market is Joey Essex, everyone's favourite reality TV star, Joey Essex. I know you like him, Farley. He's
Do
he's fifth favourite currently at 6-1 to win the show. And again, I'm going off social media presence alone here, but he's the second most followed celebrity who's going to be on the show on Instagram. He's got 2 million followers on there, basically. At 6-1, he's already come down from 20-1 on Monday, which I was going to tip him at originally. He's already into 6-1 to win it. And again, I'm going off popularity for the show too. So Ekin-Su, she's going to be my tip to win at 4-1. Joey Essex at 6-1 is a nice little price too. Anyone else in the market that I'm looking at the minute doesn't really strike me as having a massive chance. Seaver from The Wanted, maybe, because his bandmate sadly passed away earlier this year. There's going to be talk around that on the show. It's going to be sad for him to be skating on there, and again, it will be something that people will get behind him for. But other than that, there's not really many big names. John Fashanu is going to be on there.
I'm looking at the list now, like, Christ, this is a bunch of nobodies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think with Dancing on Ice, it's a show that it's known for not having many massive names. I mean, in recent years, you've had Paul Gascoigne's son win the show. Like, that's the type of people they go for. I was going to say his name. I don't even know his name. That's just known as Paul Gascoigne's son. Like, don't want to be disrespectful to you, but that's the kind of level that we're at. So Ekin-Su is actually a fairly good name for the show, to be honest, like in terms of popularity amongst people our age. So yeah, that's going to be my tip for this week. There's nothing else really going on in terms of special betting. I think I was going to briefly talk around political betting, but after yesterday with Liz Truss resigning, there's not really much I can go into now on that, to be honest, except Boris has gone from 14-1 down to just 6-4 now to be next Prime Minister. So everything's looking good for UK politics without any sort of sarcasm whatsoever. So there's no point of us getting any more political. We might as well just go straight on to our weekend double. So again, it's usually treble. Boz has bottled it for us again. He's not a shambles. We should have asked him for if he's got any picks for this week, actually. But looking at our double for this weekend, we've both gone for the EFL. We've both discussed that, EFL is a bit stinky, and then we've both tipped up a team in the EFL, sorry. So, Farley, give me your pick for the weekend double first of all.
Yeah, I'm going for Wickham away at MK Dons, 17-11. Again,
them odds are stinky, aren't they? 17-11, it's a stinky price.
Yeah, this is the problem. I'm always on a well-known comparison site to compare and always get the best odds. But you always end up with there's always these skanky operators who just try and push the boat out, get the best price, and they end up coming up with these absolute horror show bets. But ultimately, Wickham, they've not actually been brilliant this year, but they are not an awful team. They've still got a good manager in Gareth Ainsworth. And MK Dons, I went up there last Saturday with Argyle. We smashed them off the park. They are the worst team in that division that I've seen this season by a country mile. They're an absolute embarrassment. And considering how good they were last year, it is a surprise, but they've lost a few players, including Scott Twine. But I think Wickham at 17-11, that's a big price. And I'll be putting that in a few acres this weekend, I think. So I've got to put it in here for the weekend double.
I couldn't believe how dominant Plymouth were against MK Dons, to be honest. It just seems like, as you say, they've completely fallen off a cliff this year. I was actually going to pick Plymouth as my pick, but I thought I can't do it. I can't jinx Farley. I can't do it.
Go on.
No. I've gone for Mansfield. I've gone for the Stags to beat Crawley this weekend at 3-4. It's 4th against 23rd in League Two. Mansfield haven't lost in the last 5. They've won the last 3 in a row. And
I like that.
Mansfield, they're one of them teams that are always there or thereabouts towards the top. They spend the money and they really do need to go up this year, I think. They've got some cracking players. They've got Longstaff, who was at Newcastle. He's there. And they just need to go up this season. 3-4 to beat Crawley. That is my bet. The double, Farley, do you want to give us the price on the double?
Yep. So best price on the market. I'm looking at it right now with a bookie that I promise none of you have accounts for them. It is 7-2, big price. More established bookies are marginally lower, but still really good price. I think that's just a fantastic price. I'm literally going to put that double on the second we stop this call.
Nice. I think
Love
it is a great price too, 7-2. So before we go, Farley, is there anything else you want to add to this week's pod?
I want to say a few simple things. Like, subscribe, follow, social media, podcast platforms, YouTube, wherever. We really appreciate it. And guys, I must admit, we didn't put a call out for Twitter questions this week, but we'd like to answer some. It's been a couple of weeks now. So if you're listening to this right now, I want you to go onto Twitter @TheAtOddsPod, send us a question for next week, and we will answer it. No matter what it is, that is a promise. As long as it involves betting on some level, we will answer it. So any questions, we will say it on air next week. And yeah, that's all for me, I think.
I like it. Now, we need to make sure Sam Boz is here next week. No matter what he says, Sam Boz needs to be on here with some racing picks. Now, we've actually got Champions League action next week. There may be a surprise pod if Boz wants to do one Sunday, Monday. You know what he's like. Boz can talk for days, so it could well be on the cards. But yeah, there's nothing else from me. Again, as Farley said, like, subscribe, follow us everywhere. And again, just get a message into Boz and just tell him to come back because he's been a shambles for the last few weeks. I was going to say I miss him, but I don't want to get his head any more big, to be honest. So that's all from us. Again, like, subscribe, follow, and we'll see you next week.